Okay, so good morning. This is the Witch of Minos, and I am here to talk about how you can read and interpret tarot cards and how to debunk the system within one deck or using multiple decks. So, I haven't really seen many videos which talks about the history, the actual history of tarot, because we usually use this system as something ancient, something universal, but it's not. Tarot has its origins in the 15th century Italy, Milano specifically, but later it spread to France due to the abdication of some northern Italian territories, and the tarot as a card game became popular and more widely known in Western Europe as well. So you will see tarot cards not just from northern Italy, but you will see it from France, Germany, uh, German ruled countries. So Central Europe also has their own tarot cards. And the first interpretation of tarot as a divination tool came in the 16th century of France, where the local occultist groups, Freemasons specifically, started to use these cards and their symbolism to predict life events. Some interpretation came from the cards gaming um, era, maybe, such as labeling the major arcana or not, how to interpret the Fool and Death, the Tower specifically. And there were significant occultists and Freemasons in the 18th and 19th century who made their mark on tarot as we know it today, such as, I don't know, Geblen, who was really desperate to connect Egyptian mythology to tarot cards, or Jean-Baptiste Alliette, who went further and brought Hermes Trismegistus into the picture and added the upright and reverse dichotomy to the reading. Or Marianne Lenormand, you can know her from the Lenormand cards. She was besties with Empress Josephine, who was Bonaparte's first wife. And that's why the French court was really into tarot card in that time. Or I think we have to talk about, and we will talk about Alifas Levi, who went deeper with the associations between tarot decks, Kabbalah, astrology, and that's why we will see this huge, I don't know, system of esoteric views within a tarot deck. So altogether, all of them believed that the tarot deck was the key to interpret life itself and carried a universal knowledge that a spiritually educated person can claim as his own if he knows how to read it. And tarot itself got out of France during the early 19th century when a Victorian linguist and member of a Freemason group, namely Kenneth Mackenzie, visited Eliphas Levi, took his studies with him back to England, and he later founded his own Freemason group, the Rosicrucian Society of England, which had members who later became the founders of another group, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, which you might have heard about in connection with Aleister Crowley mainly, but William Butler Yeats was also a member. He introduced the order to Pamela Smith. You might have heard about her in relation to the Rider-Waite deck, because she designed the cards of this specific or the original Rider-Waite deck, and that's why we also call it Rider-Waite Smith deck now, because Pamela was mainly forgotten for many decades for being a woman, and she was actually the wife of Waite, and the rider in the Rider-Waite Smith tarot deck is the company which published this card first as a just as a toy. And the Golden Dawn changed the order of the cards a little bit, renamed a few. For example, the Fool became the first card instead of being at the end. of the major arcana, like back in the gaming time of the deck, and connected the cards more to the Egyptian faith than to Christianity. Uh, they they changed a few things, like the Batons became wands, the page became the princess, uh, but that was it. So major things did not happen with the deck, and their work was mainly to reorganize the knowledge they came upon from the French and German and Italian sources and created a solid system where it all fitted. So they had this holistic view of the deck and astrology and Kabbalah and numerology and mythology, and they've created a deck to gather all of this into one symbolic, specific, divinatory purpose. Meanwhile, from the Golden Dawn, Crowley created his own tarot deck, which was called the Thoth Tarot deck, and it also goes back to French Freemasonry. There was Gibran, who had an idea that the word tarot comes from Egyptian, meaning the royal road, which is really resembling the idea that the tarot is the fool's journey. So they said that the tarot deck goes through everyone's life, and you are at different stops in your life, and you can not just predict but analyze these stops. And he then got connected to Thoth's Book of the Dead, even though the Rosetta Stone was not translated yet. So Crowley believed that the tarot deck comes from ancient Egyptian knowledge. Now we possibly still wouldn't know much about tarot if it wouldn't have been picked up by an American businessman. His name was Kaplan, and he introduced this new divinatory tarot to the American masses. And later he also wrote a book about how to read tarot, which we still use today sometimes. There is no definite interpretation. Uh, in his view, the reader has to meditate on the meaning personal to them, and that every reading, it's not scientific because every card means different things to the reader and the querent and everyone involved in this reading. We have many reasons why we still use this approach. One of them is for legal reasons, but still this reinvented tarot system touches upon something that this Western soul carries. And it is no coincidence that we can read the original tarot as archetypes. And that's why you will be able to read several essays and researches from Freud and especially from Jung himself, that esoteric views has their roots in the archetypes. And that's why we know that the tarot involves Kabbalistic and astrological symbols, and it all comes to those funky dames and youths from 2-3 centuries ago who dabbled with ancient myths and knowledge, and they desperately wanted to cut their ties to the Christian church and created a system that we now consider ancient, but it is not. But nevertheless, tarot can be used for many things. Divination, yes, that's one purpose. But also it can be a huge aid for self-knowledge, learning to know ourselves, our deepest passions and fears, and through that, this is true magic. This is true magic. This tarot deck, or these tarot decks, there are several hundred types out there at the market, not counting the ones that are special editions. For example, you can check the original Rider-Waite, this one here. Uh, you can get, I don't know, gilded with gold, or the black version, the golden version, the prismatic version, everything. But there are several hundred types of deck out there with the same base. And And yes, you can use it for divination, you can use it for fun, you can use it to know yourself, know other people better, or understand situations better. In this case, this can work like storytelling cards, which are used sometimes in psychiatry and in the mental health field as well. Of course, tarot is not for mental health. It's not for healing. It's for understanding. It's for fun. It's for I don't know, experimenting with ourselves, with the way we think, the way we see the world. And the series I will launch will introduce the cards one by one of a tarot deck through various decks, and I will talk about their symbolism, their possible connection to previous decks. For example, I will often use this Visconti Sforza deck, which was ordered back in the 16th century, and its purpose was it was just a tarot game, so it wasn't for divination. It came later, or the Rider Waite Smith, or I will use as much as I can, really. This is the Egyptian deck, the reintroduced Egyptian deck. Of course, there was no tarot back in ancient Egypt. Or I think this is Ambison's Animal deck, Animal Tarot. You will see that there are many interpretations for a tarot deck. So sometimes we have these original designs. This is for this, and you will see how they interpreted it in the Victorian era. But nowadays, animal decks are really popular. I really love them. You will see that most of the decks I have are based on animals. We have the kinky decks, like the Decameron deck. Uh, I will put it here. I try to choose something that it's not obscene or vulgar for minor viewers. Uh, yeah, many of them are from animal decks. Or for example, you can see that many modern decks are using very cute designs. This is the Tarot of Mugi, and this is one of my recent purchases. And I don't know, for this is the Tarot of the Modern Witch. I really love this. You will see how the symbolism connects to the previous decks, how they reinterpret it, and which is very important, in my opinion, to see is that tarot is changing with times. So we have the Renaissance view of life, we will have the Victorian interpretation of life, and we will have, especially with the Modern Witch deck and many others, that nowadays we see life and the situations in life quite differently, and that's why sometimes the original Kaplan interpretation doesn't stick with us. And I think that's it. That's it for now. So I hope you are intrigued and see you at the next part. Bye.